Good morning, friends. Happy Monday. It might even be like good afternoon. It's like 11:15. So I'm cleaning the house. I'm doing laundry. I am like not dressed for the public, and yet here I am hanging out with you. You should feel so lucky. So lucky. So it's April 13th for those of you who have lost track of what day it could possibly be. And April 13th, it actually has like a lot of national days. There's 4 for today. It is National Make Lunch Count Day. I'm going to have leftovers. I don't know if that's making lunch count or not. It's National Peach Cobbler Day. So actually, if you could have peach cobbler for lunch, maybe you're like celebrating 2 national days at once. I love peach cobbler. It's really good. I'm a peach fan. I think peaches are delicious fruits. We're not really in peach season though. If you ever get the chance, you take a peach and you like cut it in half and you take the pit out and you put it on the grill and you get it like warm and like all the sugars come out and you kind of get the grill marks on it, and then you do it with like a scoop of vanilla ice cream. It's like a great summer dessert and it's super tasty. And I like to tell myself that it's half healthy because it has the peach in it. So we like discount the ice cream, and it's clearly a very healthy dessert. It's also National Scrabble Day, and despite like being an avid reader, I love books and I love to read, I am not a great Scrabble player. I think it has to do with strategy, but Mr. Noonan beats me every time we play Scrabble. So I will not be celebrating National Scrabble Day if I have anything to say about it, but he might convince me otherwise. It's also National Thomas Jefferson Day. So I guess if you write a constitution of a country, you get a national day. Something to aspire to, my friends. Okay, so one of you sent me this question, and it was really interesting. And it was actually, I lost it. There it is. Okay, so you asked me a question about liars and why people are liars, and if liars tend to be friends, like with each other. And I thought it was an interesting question. I don't know that much about the science of lying or liars, to be honest with you. Mr. Noonan read a book called Lie Spotting, and he said, oh, why don't you read it? And I said, well, that's going to take a while. So I just did a little research online, and I found an article on psychologytoday.com. And Psychology Today is a pretty reputable psychology publication, and so I felt like this could be a pretty good resource to look up some information about lying in order to answer your question. So I'm going to try. Hang in there with me. I'm going to do my best. So the title of the article that I read is 9 Truths You Should Know About Expert Liars. And so they basically did this research study, and it was only one. And you have to understand that in science, many studies should be conducted about something before you can come out with a reasonable understanding of it. For example, COVID-19. So people are constantly researching, and we come out and people say, oh, like, it looks like this drug is really helpful. But then if you do more studies, it turns out that it's not so helpful. So many studies have to be done. And this article actually said that it's very difficult to spot a lie, that people are really not good at that. And that research has shown that our ability to detect a lie, our accuracy rate for detecting a lie is only about 54%. So we have like a 50-50 chance of being able to figure out if somebody is lying. So the researchers were kind of like, well, if we can't spot a lie, like why not try finding the liars, right? The people who lie, as opposed to figuring out what is a lie. So for this study, they decided they were going to study liars, in particular expert liars, in order to understand the art of deception or the art of lying. And they came up with these 9, what they're calling truths. But again, remember, this is just one study. So the first truth is that the majority of lies are told by a minority of liars. So basically, most people are honest most of the time. And the most lies come from a very small group of people who lie a lot. So for example, a 2010 study of 1,000 people who participated found that 50% of all lies reported in a 24-hour period, so in one day, 50% of lies were told by 5% of the people participating. That's a lot of lies told by a very small group of people. Prolific liars think they are good liars. So in this study, it was a lot of self-reporting. So they would ask these people questions about their lies and their lying habits. And so it says the higher self-reported ratings of individuals' deception ability, so how well people think they lie, directly matched self-reports of telling a greater number of lies per day. So these people said, like, I'm really good at lying and I do it a lot. Okay, so they think that they're good. These people who do it all the time think that they're good. Sorry, that's the laundry. Okay, the third truth is that they tend to tell inconsequential lies. So expert liars tend to tell more lies that aren't really important as opposed to lies with serious consequences. So they might say like, oh, I forgot my coffee in my car. Like, it's not a big deal, but they forgot something more important in their car that they ran out to get at work. I don't know. I'm making this up because, like, and this, I'll talk about this later when I get down to the end, but like, I'm not a good liar. Okay. The authors kind of guess that people who believe they can get away with small lies may be more inclined to do them frequently in their daily interactions. All right, the next truth is that they prefer lying face to face. So the research from the study suggests that liars do that on purpose, that they have verbal strategies, the way that they talk or their facial expressions that they can control that help them be able to get away with a lie face to face. And they also said that they tend not to do this, they tend not to lie online because people have been taught to kind of be wary of online environments. And like we teach you guys, you need to check your sources and you need to verify them and see if you can find that information somewhere else to make sure it's true. So liars don't really want to put their lies online because people are trained to check them. Whereas if you're face to face and they can kind of make you believe them with the words that they choose or their facial expressions, then they might get away with the lie better. So they tend to lie to people's faces as opposed to putting it in a text or online. The fifth truth is, so there's three strategies that the scientists think they figured out about liars. And the first one is embedding lies in truth. So good liars are good talkers. And they found that good liars are more likely than poor liars to be able to match the amount and type of details in their lies to truthful parts of the stories. So what they believe is that good liars are good talkers. They are good at conversation, and that they can pretty equitably match in their talking their amount of lies to their amount of truths. They kind of like make it even. So if you're saying all these truths and then you like slip in some lies, people might tend to not pay as much attention or believe them more. So good liars are good talkers. The second strategy, which is truth number 6, is to keep it simple. So an expert liar does not try to add too much detail. They tend to know the appropriate amount to relate at the appropriate time. So they don't like go into crazy little minute details about the things that they're lying about. They keep it simple. The third strategy, which is the 7th truth, is that the lie must be plausible. It must be believable. So expert liars are good at creating a believable account. And one way they do this, according to the study, is by providing information that the receiver of the lie cannot check. I couldn't even come up with an example for you guys for that. Because, again, not a good liar. So they come up with lies that the person hearing the story or the information has no way of verifying. I mean, I guess it's a pretty good strategy. All right, truth number 8. So it says men or women, who is the better liar? So who do you think is better at lying, men or women? according to the study, it found that men are twice as likely as women to consider themselves to be good at lying and getting away with it, which is probably like a key detail there. Like they're good at lying and getting away with the lie. So according to the study, and this is self-reported, this is like people saying like, hey, do you think you're a good liar? Do you think you get away with your lies? So 70% of females compared with 30% of males think that they're bad liars. So more women than men think that they're bad liars. And then about 62% of men compared to 37% of women think that they're good liars. So men seem to think overall that they're good at lying, and women overall seem to think that they're bad at lying. 9, the most common recipients of prolific or like really good and constant liars' lies tend to be friends, colleagues, which are like people you work with, and romantic partners, as opposed to family, employers, or authority figures, which is really interesting. So people tend to lie to their friends, but not their family. They tend to lie to their coworkers, but not their boss. That's interesting, I think, personally. This is going to be a long video. And then it goes on a little bit to talk about like the limitations to consider in a scientific study. Because if you remember from science, there's variables that you can't really control in a study. And so one of the big questions, obviously, in terms of researching lying is, can you trust these people who are participating in your study and consider themselves to be good liars? One would assume if someone thinks they're a good liar, they're going to lie. So there's a couple things that the researchers did to try to control for this. So there was a 2017 study. It had about 3,000 people participate. And they were looking at the question, how do you know the subjects are not lying about the extent to which they lie? So like when you go to the doctor and they're like, oh, how much do you exercise? And you know you're supposed to be exercising a lot or a lot more than you do. And you're like, oh, I exercise for like 45 minutes 4 times a week. When really like you exercise for 30 minutes twice a week, but like you kind of feel like you're supposed to tell your doctor that you're exercising because it's like the right thing to do. So how do we know that the subjects are not lying about how much they lie? So the authors explained that the way that they kind of test the self-reported data is to include other ways of collecting data. So that could be like behavioral measures, like they observe the person, or they monitor their habits or their routines, and projective data. So like they kind of look at other studies and they can see what the person is doing now, and they can kind of infer like, you know, what will happen later and then see if it matches in order to confirm how reliable, how truthful the self-reports are. And they mentioned that in these studies, they tell the participants that it's anonymous. They're not like releasing names to people. They're not tracking like someone's behavior next to their name. The participant may get a number or a code or something like that. And so researchers aren't looking at like, oh, look, here's Mrs. Noonan, and this is what she says on her lying habits, right? No, like I would have a number, you know, 06450 says, you know, oh, here's the lying habits of this number. So it kind of removes the motivation to lie. The liar's not getting anything out of it. It's not being kind of connected back to them for something that maybe they're proud of if they're a good liar. So basically the study said we all might be better off if instead of trying to spot a lie, we try to spot a liar. So I found it pretty interesting. I hope you understood it all. I'm going to put the article in Google Classroom in case you're bored and you want to read more about it, because I just like pulled out little pieces here and there. But that's my answer for your question about liars and whether or not they're friends. I also have a would you rather question. Would you rather become 5 years older or 2 years younger? Now I can guess what you guys are going to say, because when I was in 8th grade, definitely wanted to be 5 years older, but right now I want to be 2 years younger. So that's what I would rather be. I would rather be 2 years younger, but maybe you would rather be 5 years older. So leave your comments. I want to hear about it. Otherwise, I'm just talking to this camera to myself, which might drive me crazy. So let's keep Mrs. Noonan sane. Please respond to my would you rather question, and I will see you all later. Peace.